3:16 time then. He was part of the bomb squad in 2011, along with Corey Jane and Israel Dagg, won us a World Cup. Richard Kahui then for the Chiefs, 2012, 2013, member of their champion Super Rugby side. He joins us on the Gold Coast. Welcome back, mate.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a long time since we've had a chat, Marty.
Yeah, looking forward to this because we've got the big final, of course, this weekend, and it's your old mob up against the eternal champions, who are the Crusaders, two best teams in the country, man. I mean, you couldn't pick a better final.
No, I think as far as form goes, these two teams have shown throughout the whole year that they are the teams to beat. Obviously, Crusaders started slowly, but I think if you watch that semi-final versus the Blues, I don't know if I've seen a more thorough, more dominant performance by a Super Rugby team in a playoff game.
Well, I went back to last year's final where they did pretty much the same thing. Scoreline didn't blow out as much, but just basically smacked them up right from the off.
Yeah, and you know what? Just they've got so much experience through there with Sammy Whitelock and those boys, and obviously they're well coached in the system they run down there in Crusader Land is world class because what are they shooting for? 7, 6,
yeah,
5?
7, 8, 10, 15. Yeah. It's the ability as well. And it's interesting you mentioned Whitelock, because he has such an influence, even though he may strap the boots on this weekend. But they are able to interchange. Richard, they had 6 or 7 of their first choice players missing that Crusaders side, and it didn't disrupt them at all. Why is that? How is that?
Well, I suppose when you get in good teams, I see Johnny Garfoa come back for a little cameo for the Crusaders as well. So they were obviously not desperate. I don't mean that disrespectfully to my mate, but they've been through a lot of players. But I think when you've got a team and a culture like they've obviously grown down there, everybody puts in, everybody does the work. And, when you miss out on the 23, you don't drop your head. You just keep working hard. You stay engaged. And, guys like Tamati Ellison in the coaching box, guys like him are great men, and they will grow they do grow great culture inside teams. And I think that ability for the Crusaders and the Chiefs to an extent too, where guys have been injured, someone's come and filled the role and done a stellar job. So, if you want to win Super Rugby titles, it takes more than your 23. It takes a whole squad, and they've, both of these teams have proved that they've got plenty of depth. Both teams will be largely at their top squad, so it should be a cracking game this weekend.
So let's just hark back, Richard Kahui with us, to 2012, 2013, when you're a member of that champion, the Chiefs side. And, to be the best, you've got to beat the best. And I think, you've got to knock the Crusaders out. It's like the heavyweight champ. You've got to put that guy down if you want to take his crown. Okay, so what did you guys learn at that time to be able to create your own dynasty? Because this is what the Chiefs now are trying to do again.
Yeah, so we were coached by 2 world-class coaches, and including Andrew Shawbridge and Tom Coventry. We had Wayne Smith and Dave Rennie. It's not what you do in the last week of the competition. It's what you've been doing for the last sort of 6 months. And the Chiefs have been building really well. I think when we got to these big games, the focus is really simple. Obviously, you just focus on what you do really well. But there was 1 or 2 things that we'd focus and change slightly for each team. And when you get to these big games, you need to keep a cool head. The last thing you want is to lose a card to a bit of foul play or anything silly. You don't want to give away too many penalties. But the big games, you've got to keep your head, but you just got to do what you do well, and be patient, because the Crusaders are a patient side, and they will sit and they'll wait, and they're happy to slug it out. And I think that game versus the Brumbies last week for the Chiefs was really good prep for what they're going to encounter this week. The Brumbies are a team that are really good on the ground. They sort of love the dark arts, and sort of if you're talking MMA fighting, they're not the stand-up punching team. They'll take you to the ground. That's where they want to fight you, and that's similar to the Crusaders around the ruck and tackle. And they're just patient. The Brumbies didn't give the Chiefs much. They had to work hard for what they got, and then it took 70 minutes to blow the game out, but then they got there in the end. So it's going to be a cracking game, and I think as far as styles go, I think they've both got what they need to undo each other. So it'll be a good little chess match.
Yeah, so it hasn't bothered you at all that the Chiefs in the 2 knockout games against the Reds and the Brumbies, 2 teams that you'd normally expect if it was in just in normal competition that they would blow away, hasn't bothered you at all that they have, I'm not saying they've struggled through these games, but they're the hard-fought wins.
Yeah, I think they're probably disappointed with the Reds' performance, although the Reds really did play well. they probably let themselves down their ball in hand. Some of the kicking was probably not up to standard, but as far as the Brumbies game went, the Brumbies are a really good side, and they've shown that year on year. They missed out on the final last year because of that last minute didn't get the penalty. So that they're a team that can, exactly what I said about the Crusaders, they can stick in there, they can fight, but they're actually a really good side. So I thought last week the Chiefs actually, the performance wasn't what you would say was a great performance, but I think it's exactly what they needed, and it shows that they do have that ability to hang around and play tough, and because they're going to have to. And I think if you look back to that Blues, the first 15 minutes, I think the Crusaders had already won the game.
Yep.
Just because they'd sort of beat the Blues into submission, and then they're trying to play all these deep passes out the back, and you just can't do that when you're going backwards. So it's I know everybody that ever talks about rugby says it's one up front, but for the Chiefs to play the style they want, they're going to need their forward pack to go forward, and if they don't, then it'll be another game where it's sort of more one off the ruck, get to the midfield and playing off 9, because you just can't play wide against the Crusaders in the way they're defending at the moment. They're tackling hard and getting on the ball.
So tactically, are we going to see what we saw last week? We saw Sean Stevenson kick a lot of ball down the field. We saw Damo do exactly the same, mate. It wasn't kicking for corners. It wasn't kicking for touch. It was belting the possession away and then back in defence. That probably had a fair bit to do with the fact it was pouring with rain. But do you see a similar tactic? Oh, okay, there you go. All right.
Yeah, well, I think that was a lot to do with the rain. I know that traditionally we're seeing teams kick corners, but nowadays a lot of teams are playing 2 fullbacks, so teams are kicking down the middle, so that's not uncommon to see in games anyway. But I think depending on the weather, I think possession's the key, and if you're going to kicking to contest or kicking to put them under pressure. So I'd hate to see. And so similar to the Reds game, I'd hate to see the Chiefs kicking the ball long to hand for no real gain, because the Crusaders are good enough to run it back, kick, and put pressure on you. And I do think if the weather's okay, that possession will be the key. So I'd expect more up and unders, sort of out wide, wingers, but sort of the traditional box kicks, or your 10 high ball kicking from the middle of the field to their wingers to contest, and then go from there, because structured attack is going to be difficult for these the way these two teams defend. They're very good defensively, both sides, so they're going to have to try and find a way to get in behind the line. So it's most likely to be these small kicks, these up and unders, bit of loose ball, and then that'll get momentum, and then teams will be able to play their style of game from there.
2-time Super Rugby champion. He's a world champion too. He's part of our bomb squad, of course, in 211. Richard Kahui is with us. The outside in defence, we saw the Crusaders, that the Blues just couldn't get their head around. Tactically undoing that, are you looking for space behind? Look, if you've got guys coming in off their wing like that means there's some green behind them. Is that what you're looking for? Is that the Chiefs going to have to be wary of that and actually think, okay, we may have to put a bit of a right in here, a big spiral pass. It might be a little bit risky, or a chip in behind there and let our guy contest.
Oh, well, the funny thing about that sort of outside in defence, it's the illusion of space. And so when I say the illusion of space, you see the winger might be 15 metres, 20 metres in from touch, and he's coming in to tackle the second or third to last attacker. So there's heaps of space. Well, you think there is. But actually trying to get the ball there under pressure is really difficult. So there's 2 ways you can do it. You can kick it there, which is obviously 50-50, or you can throw the big looping pass. But by the time you throw the pass, your centres they're able to turn and chase, the wingers are able to turn and chase, and you really make no net gain from it. So the way to really beat the outside in defences is being able to try and pull defenders in, so playing tighter, playing the more short balls, having wingers floating around off the hip of your 10 or your 12, and trying to get those defenders to bite in even more, set a quick ruck and then go.
Right.
That's sort of, you're looking to beat that defence, because, you always think, there's heaps of space out there. But actually, when there's pressure, when the line's coming forward, and your ball's a bit slippery, or you're 20 metres behind the advantage line, it's not that easy to get it there.
When you're saying that, and I'm thinking, okay, it's the risk and reward things. How do you approach these games? Do you play with fear? Do you have to play within yourself? Do you play thinking, I'm not going to make a mistake because one mistake could actually cost me? Or do you have to go out there and chance your arm? It's a delicate balance, isn't it?
Oh, it is. And encourage, I know when 2012 and 2013, and the message is basically just, like I said earlier, do what you do well, but be courageous. If the space is there, take it. And, these guys training all year for the moment, and, there's been a lot of work over the last probably 20 years now with the mental skills, and being able to see this, and I know it's not just another game, but being able to see it as another game and being able to see the opportunities that you've been seeing all year and being able to take those. It's an art, and it's a skill, and guys that are more experienced, and you've got two pretty experienced sides, especially the Crusader side, but there's All Blacks strewn throughout both teams. And I'd like to see them go out, be courageous, play the sort of footy that they want, but what will allow that is being able to break down that defense first. And it's going to take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes of hard work up front, up the middle, and then the opportunities will start to open up.
And finally, just sinking and talking about your old mate, Sean Stevenson, and he's been a big talking point here in New Zealand. If you've been following any of the media or the chat about, a real surprise omission for most of us from that All Black squad, even though he's injury cover. What do you say to him at this stage? He's got to clear his mind. He's got to go out and play well, and that's all he can actually do. So a couple of parts to that question, obviously. Were you surprised as well that he didn't make it? And also, how does he put that out of his head and just do his job this weekend?
Yeah, look, I think if you take it just off what he's done this year, he's probably done enough to make the squad. But obviously, taking everything into account, it's a World Cup year. This team's been building for 4 years now to get here, and it's not. It's not uncommon to see that coaches will stick with at least a big core of who they've taken. And I think that those outside backs for the All Blacks, there's a number of guys there that have been there the last few years and that have performed. So on his form, yeah, he definitely could have made the All Blacks, but I think just being the year it is, and good thing for Sean is that he has played well enough to make it. And so if he can put another year like that in next year and the year after, like he could be a long-term All Black. So, and like you said, that the door's not completely shut. Here's a big game this weekend, and the All Black coaches will be watching because they've got 18, 20 odd blokes out there that are that have worn the black jersey. So if you can go out there and perform, probably give them that confidence to say, hey, actually, I am ready. And I can play the big games because Super Rugby is all well and good. And we've seen a number of players over the years that are wonderful Super Rugby players. And I'm not talking about Sean in particular. I'm just talking in general.
Sure.
And when you get to that international stage, when you get to World Cups, it's a whole different kettle of fish. So, I'm obviously disappointed for him. But I think if he just keeps his chin up, plays well this week, he's still a chance for later in the year and definitely next year.
Cracking game ahead, mate. Brilliant game ahead. Can't wait.
Huge game. Come on, the Chiefs. Up the mana.